everyone, welcome back to the Brush by Brandy YouTube channel. My name is Brandy, and this week we were working on a fun project. This is actually a baby's changing table, which I haven't done before, but I wanted to do something really fun for this. This is part of a set to go into baby's nursery, and I've done the dressers. You can find those videos also up now on my YouTube channel. For this baby's changing table, I wanted to add a little bit of fun decoration. So babies spend a lot of time on their changing table. They need some fun things to look at, but they're also messy places. You know what happens on a changing table. So we are going to do a resin pour in this video. After I add some paint and some fun decorations to this changing table, we're going to coat it in resin to keep it protected from those fun spills and other messes that might happen in that space. So you guys stick around and let's get started and put this changing table together. So we're making a baby's changing table, and this started out in a dark wood finish and it was fairly glossy. So I started out by giving it a really good cleaning using some Greenies cleaner, and now I'm going to scuff sand up the surface using my Surf Prep sander. I scuffed this up using a 120 grit paper, and once I've got all that gloss taken down, I need to go ahead and give this a good cleaning again. I choose to clean my piece before I sand so that I don't grind any of the oils or dirt down into the grain of the wood, and then I clean it again afterwards so that I can remove any of the dust that I created by sanding. Next, I needed to give this a coat of primer, and I chose primer in white. This is 123 primer from Zinsser. I chose to use this spray primer because I was in a time crunch and I needed to get these coats on for my live that night. When I don't have that time crunch, I like to use Owl primer as my first choice, and I'll do 2 coats of that. But 2 coats of this 123 primer was great to get on before my live. And the reason I chose to prime this was because I wanted the help with adherence, and then because this is also going to be a white piece, it takes my wood from brown to white, and it's going to save me on paint. This is a fairly modern piece. I wasn't particularly worried about bleed through with this one, so it's mostly for the color change that I'm using this white primer. Now I'm going to add some fun details to this piece to tie in with the bee theme for this whole bedroom set that I did for the nursery. You can find the other videos for this set up now on my YouTube channel. I'm going to do that using a decoupage paper from Redesign with Prima, and this is one of their new release decoupage papers that comes in a pack of 3. This particular one has a gray background, and then it has a bee and a crown theme on it, which is going to be perfect to go with this bedroom set. I'm just going to apply it using a little bit of polyacrylic. That's because I'm out of my decoupage gel that I really like to use for this heavier paper, so this polyacrylic is going to be great. It's something I have in my stash and I want to go ahead and use to get rid of. I apply a nice ample coat of the polyacrylic to the base, and then I'm going to go ahead and lay my paper down. I did dry fit this paper beforehand, so I knew what orientation I wanted to lay it in. I'm going to find my 90-degree corner and line that up really well, and then I'm going to slowly work my paper from one edge to the other. This paper from Redesign with Prima is actually really forgiving, so if I make any mistakes in my placement, this paper does have the ability to be picked up and moved if I needed to. Once I've got my placement down, I'm going to pick up this edge and just make sure my polyacrylic goes all the way to the edge of my paper. Then I can use a razor knife to slice any edges that I have overlapping and get rid of any excess. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a coat of my polyacrylic over the top. This is going to sandwich that paper in between 2 coats of polyacrylic. So I try to do ample coats so that the underneath comes up through the paper, and then what I'm putting up over top goes down below, and they meet up and are going to lock this paper in and encapsulate it. This paper also doesn't have a tendency to wrinkle like a lot of papers do, so it's really user-friendly. I seamed in a little slice of paper to finish off that corner by matching up my pattern, and now this paper is all laid. But I'm not done decorating this changing table yet. I'm also going to put some bees on. These are from polyonlay, and these are a 3D wood applique that I'm going to put on top of the paper, and it's just going to add some layers of depth and dimension to that paper and make this even more interesting to look at. These wood appliques can be painted in any color. I chose to paint mine in the gray and white theme that I'm using on this bedroom set. And then I'm going to use a little bit of Titebond Quick and Thick adhesive to apply these to my bedroom set and to my changing table. I also tried applying the polyonlay appliques using a spray adhesive, 3M Super 77, and I found that was really effective as well, so that's an alternative if you don't have Titebond on hand. With my bee appliques added, I did decide to come back and paint the edges of my frame to add a little bit of gray to it as well. In hindsight, had I done this in the proper order, I should have painted this all first, but because I decided to add this detail at the end, I'm doing it in the wrong order, but that's my job, right? To figure out all the mistakes and make them for you so you don't have to. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to add a little bit of shading in Wisel paint, and this color is called Smoky Quartz, and I'm just going to add it to the corners of the changing table, just so those have a little darkened detail so they tie in a little bit better with the furniture pieces that are also going in this room. I'm going to blend that Smoky Quartz into the Snow Owl, which is that white that I used on the rest of the body of this piece. I just chose to do the corners on this one. I also did the inside corners, and when I was doing that, I just had to be very careful that I didn't get any of my paint onto the paper that I also laid on the inside. Again, that's the reason why I would do the paint first next time, but hindsight is 20/20. All right, it is time for the most fun part of this changing table, and I'm going to do a resin pour. So because I added that paper and those appliques, I need to protect them because this is going to be a place where baby diapers are changed, and I'm going to do that using resin. This is Amazing Clear Cast Plus resin from Alumilite, and I chose this because it has UV resistance in it. So because I'm going to be pouring a translucent coat of resin, I want it to have a tendency to not yellow, and the UV protection will keep this from ambering over time. All resins do have a tendency to amber over time, and so anytime you're doing translucent or whites or light colors, it's always good to use resin with a UV protectant in it. I mixed in just a little bit of silver mica powder, and it's going to make this look a little bit darker in the container, but when I pour this out over the large surface that it's going to go onto, it's just going to add a little bit of sparkle over the top. That little bit of sparkle will make it more fun to look at, but it's not going to obscure the design underneath. With my resin all stirred up, I poured it over the top of my changing table, and then I'm just going to use a silicone spatula tool to spread it over the top of my surface. And I want to make sure that I spread it in over those polyonlay appliques, that I get it into those honeycomb details. This is just my first coat. My second coat is going to be a copy of this, only I did it without the silver mica powder in my second coat. And that's just because this first coat wasn't quite enough to cover all those polyonlay appliques. That second coat is called a flood coat, and that's just going to flood over the top and give me that perfect glass-like mirror finish. This first coat is called my color coat, and this is the coat where I would get any color into the resin. I'm going to make sure that I get full coverage, that I get my corners nice and covered, get it into all those polyonlay appliques, get any air pockets out that I might have in there, and that's what I'm doing on this first coat here. It is sometimes possible to do a resin pour in only one coat, but I would say that's only possible when you don't have 3D surfaces underneath or a paper with texture in it, or you're not adding any glitters or anything to your epoxy. And then sometimes you can get it done in just one clean pour, but for the most part, it's good to count on doing 2 pours. What took the most time on this coat was working it into the corners, making sure I got it right up into that 90-degree corner, making sure I got full coverage on all those appliques, and then letting it kind of soak into the paper a little bit and getting out any air bubbles so I had a nice even coat over the entire piece. This resin has about a 45-minute working time, which was plenty of time for me to get full coverage before it started setting up. This changing table had 2 different sections in it, a larger section for the baby and then a smaller section where you would put like wipes and things. And so I did the same resin pour from the same batch of resin on both sides. You also want to make sure before you pour the resin over top that all your glue from your appliques is nice and dry, that your paint has already been sealed in case you get any excess resin on the paint. You want to make sure that that is wipeable. And my paper is also nice and dry. So everything underneath needs to be nice and dry. Any wet appliques or anything underneath can cause delays or bubbling in my resin, and you can cause delays in it drying. I make sure that I wear gloves when I do this, and I'm also working in a nice open space so I have good ventilation. Once I've got my resin all spread out and I'm really happy with the design, it looks good and even, I'm going to come back with my blowtorch and I'm just going to torch out any bubbles. You can use a heat gun for this, but I find that blowtorch is significantly more effective in getting out all those bubbles. I do this once when I'm done working with the resin, and then I'm going to come back after a few minutes, probably 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to torch it one more time before this resin starts setting up. After I've torched that resin, I'm going to come back and leave this for a full 24 hours to dry. When I come back the next day, I can go ahead and do that second coat that I talked about. I did get a little bit of excess resin up onto the frame of this piece, so I'm going to use a new product from Alumilite called Amazing Resin Remover. I just added a little bit onto a shop towel and I'm able to wipe away that excess resin. Again, this is also why you want your paint sealed before you work in the resin. The resin remover also works to remove all the excess resin from my tool. I wiped away everything I could using using my shop towel, and then just a little drop of that amazing resin remover cleans all my resin tools. This also works on your skin, so anytime you accidentally get a drop or two on your skin, you get a hole in your glove or anything like that, you can use the resin remover to remove uncured resin from your skin. The Amazing Resin Remover is a brand new product, and it's already been a huge help in my workspace. I'm so glad they added this to the line. Here's our completed changing table staged with some photos taken. This turned out so cute. I love the resin over the top. It came out smooth like glass. It matches my bedroom set. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can find links for everything I used in the description for this post. You can find more Brush by Brandy on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube, and on my website at brushbybrandy.com.